Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight's story begins on a rainy evening in a busy American city, the kind of night where the streets glow with reflections of neon lights and people rush indoors to escape the cold drizzle. Inside a small but elegant restaurant, the clinking of glasses and low hum of conversations filled the air. It was the kind of place where businessmen closed deals, couples celebrated anniversaries, and tourists snapped photos of their food before taking a bite. At a table near the window sat a woman, who immediately stood out. Though no one could quite explain why at first glance, she was Japanese, elegant, and quietly composed. Her posture was straight, her movements careful and deliberate. She wore a simple but expensive-looking coat, her hair neatly tied back, and her expression was calm, almost unreadable. A small leather handbag rested beside her chair, and on the table lay a thin notebook and an old-looking fountain pen. From the moment she entered, whispers followed her. Some people thought she was a tourist who had wandered into the wrong part of town. Others assumed she was the wife of a rich businessman waiting for someone important. A few even speculated she might be lost, because she kept glancing at the menu with a slight frown, as if trying to make sense of it. The truth was, nobody understood the millionaire Japanese woman sitting by herself that night. When the waiter first approached her, he smiled politely and spoke in English, asking if she was ready to order. The woman looked up, listened carefully, and replied softly in Japanese. Her voice was gentle, but firm. The waiter blinked, confused, and repeated his question, this time a little louder, as if volume might magically bridge the language gap. Again, she answered in Japanese. This time, the waiter's smile tightened. He nodded awkwardly, pointed at the menu, and said a few broken words, hoping she might understand. She didn't. Instead, she spoke again, her tone calm but slightly more insistent, clearly trying to explain something. A couple at the next table exchanged amused glances. One of them chuckled under his breath. Another customer rolled her eyes and whispered something about tourists needing to learn English if they wanted to eat their dot. The waiter apologized and said he would get someone else. Minutes passed. The woman sat patiently, hands folded, eyes occasionally drifting to the rain outside. She didn't look embarrassed. She didn't look angry. She simply waited. Another staff member approached, then another. Each time, the same thing happened. They spoke English. She replied in Japanese. Confusion followed. Mild irritation crept into the air. Finally, the manager came out. He was a tall man with a practiced smile, the kind that was meant to calm situations before they became problems. He asked if there was an issue. The staff explained that the woman couldn't understand English, and they couldn't understand her. The manager turned to the woman and spoke slowly, clearly, as if she were a child. Do you speak English? The woman met his gaze. For the first time, there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Not anger, not fear, but disappointment. She responded in Japanese again, longer this time. Her voice steady but carrying a quiet authority that made a few nearby customers look up. The manager didn't understand a word. He sighed and gave a polite but strained smile. He gestured toward the door, suggesting without saying it outright that perhaps this restaurant wasn't the right place for her. That was when the whispers grew louder. Why would she come here if she can't even order food? She's probably wasting their time. Some people think money can get them anywhere. What none of them knew was that the woman was a millionaire. In fact, she was far wealthier than anyone in that restaurant that night. Her name was Aiko Tanaka. In Japan, her name carried weight. She was the CEO of a global technology company that specialized in advanced robotics and artificial intelligence. Her innovations had transformed industries, from healthcare to manufacturing. She had been featured in international magazines, invited to speak at world forums, and quietly donated millions to education and disaster relief. But Aiko didn't flaunt her wealth. She didn't wear flashy jewelry or travel with an entourage. On this trip, she had chosen to come alone, without assistants or translators. She wanted to experience life as it truly was, unfiltered by privilege. She believed that how people treated you when they thought you were nobody revealed more than any polished boardroom conversation ever could. Then tonight, she was learning a great deal. As the manager hesitated, clearly unsure what to do next, a soft voice spoke from behind the counter. Excuse me, I can help. Everyone turned. It was the waitress. She couldn't have been more than 22. She wore the same uniform as the others, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She had been quietly clearing tables, unnoticed until now. Her name tag read Emily. Emily stepped forward, her hands slightly trembling, and looked at the Japanese woman. Then, in clear, respectful Japanese, she spoke. Konbanba. Gochumon wo ukagai shite mo yoroshii desu ka? Good evening. May I take your order? The room went silent. Ico's eyes widened, just a fraction. Then she smiled. It wasn't a big smile, but it was genuine, warm, and filled with relief. She replied in Japanese, her voice flowing easily now, as if a door had finally opened. The manager stared, stunned. The staff looked at Emily as if she had suddenly revealed a secret superpower. A few customers leaned forward in their seats, curiosity replacing their earlier judgment. Emily listened carefully, nodding as Aiko spoke. She asked a few polite questions, clarified the order, and even recommended a dish. Explaining it in Japanese with confidence, Aiko laughed softly, surprised and pleased. When Emily finished, she bowed slightly, just as she had learned, and went to place the order. As she walked away, the manager hurried after her, whispering urgently. Emily explained that she had studied Japanese in college and spent a year abroad. She never mentioned it because no one had ever asked. The manager looked back at Aiko, suddenly nervous. The atmosphere in the restaurant had completely changed. The couple who had laughed earlier now looked embarrassed. The woman who had rolled her eyes stared down at her plate. Conversations resumed, but quieter now, more cautious. When Emily returned with the food, she didn't just drop it off and leave. She explained each dish in Japanese, describing the flavors, the ingredients, and the chef's inspiration. Aiko listened attentively, clearly impressed. "You speak beautifully," Aiko said. "Why do you work here?" Emily hesitated, then smiled shyly and answered in Japanese. She explained that she loved languages, that she dreamed of working internationally one day, but for now, she needed to support herself and help her family. Aiko nodded thoughtfully. As the meal went on, the two women talked whenever Emily had a moment, about Japan, about America, about dreams, struggles, and the strange ways life unfolded. To anyone watching, it looked like a simple conversation between a customer and a waitress, but something important was happening. By the time Aiko finished her meal, the manager personally came to the table, apologizing profusely for the misunderstanding earlier. His tone was respectful now, almost deferential. Aiko listened, then replied through Emily. Though her English was good enough to understand most of it, she accepted the apology with grace, never once mentioning how she had been treated at the door. When the check arrived, Emily placed it gently on the table. Aiko glanced at it, then reached into her handbag. What she pulled out wasn't a credit card, it was a business card. She handed it to Emily. The card was simple, white with black lettering. Emily read it once, then twice. Her eyes widened. CEO, Tanaka Innovations. Her breath caught. Aiko smiled. "If you ever want to work where your skills are truly valued," she said softly in Japanese, "call me." Emily's hands shook as she accepted the card. She bowed deeply, struggling to find words. Aiko paid the bill, left a tip that made the manager's jaw drop, and stood to leave. As she walked toward the door, the restaurant watched her go in silence. No whispers now, no laughter, only the quiet realization that they had misjudged someone extraordinary. At the door, Aiko turned back. She looked at Emily one last time and nodded. Then she was gone, disappearing into the rain-soaked night. Days later, Emily received a call that would change her life forever. In the restaurant, it would never forget the night nobody understood the millionaire Japanese woman until the waitress spoke Japanese.